Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Fender Standard Stratocaster, and there's been a lot of talk about how it's just a dressed up Squier, and today I'm just going to simply disprove that. It's very easy. Every part of this pretty much tells you it's not a Squier, even if some people think it feels like one when they pick it up because they think the neck profile is similar to, say, an Affinity, or because it's got a poplar body. But let's go ahead and knock out the easy big ones first. Okay, the neck. The neck is several millimeters wider on the 1st and on the 12th fret, which means it's not a Squier neck. This had to be made for this model. It's also got a wider nut. The fretboard would have had to been shaped to fit, which means they didn't just grab one off the Squier pile and throw it on. Not saying they couldn't have had the woods laying there, but they had to make these special for this model. Or unless they had them for something. I haven't played the Performer. It has a modern C with a full-size or full-width nut, so maybe it feels the same as this. I don't know. I know it's got a big headstock. The Affinities, like I say, they're not as wide. The Sonic and the Affinities have a big headstock as well. The Sonics have just a completely different neck, even though they have the small headstock. So there's no Squier neck here, guys. It's just not. Just like the nut, it's not a Squier. It's a full size, matches up with the American Ultra 2. The Squiers don't have that. Now, as far as the tuners, these tuners are almost, if not identical, I think they're identical to what were on the old Mexican or made in Mexico standards. They're nice sealed tuners. They work very well. A lot of people don't like what's on the current players that are made in Mexico with the split shafts. The player ones had sealed. But these are nice sealed tuners. They work great. They're not on a Squier model. They are branded Fender. So these aren't Squier tuners, guys. They didn't come off Squier. Alright, so we've eliminated the neck, the fretboard, the nut, and the tuners. They didn't come off a Squier. The tremolo. While they're not stainless steel saddles, they are chrome steel, which is still very hard, very resilient, does not have the resistance to, say, rust and stuff, but still very good. They're also a wider string spacing than the Squiers, including the Classic Vibe. They're a wider string spacing. None of the Squiers have that, so they didn't just slap this on. Plus, the posts are different. They didn't just slap a Squier tremolo on here, guys. Sorry to say that, but they didn't. Now, let's go to the body. Probably the easiest thing to make an argument for it being from the Squier line would be the body. It is poplar, just like the Classic Vibe. However, when you open them up, the routing's different. The routing for the standards is different from the routing for the Classic Vibes, and you would have had to go in and route additionally to make the Classic Vibes match. They could have, but they didn't need to make the pickups fit. They would have had to do it just to make it looked the same under the pick guard to those going, ooh, is it the same body? They didn't go through that kind of trouble, guys. So, more than likely, it's not a Classic Vibe body. I mean, it is possible that it was in the wood pile for it, like I say, but when it came time to route it and drill, no, they didn't do that. Plus, you've got this lovely new color selection, and I gotta say, I like all the new colors. They look great, except for the translucents, or transparents, whatever you want to call them. They're not quite hitting that yet. Hopefully they'll get there. Okay, let's go to the pickups and electronics. Now, I've looked under mine, I've looked at others. We have full-size alpha pots. We have a mechanical switch. And we have 2-bar ceramic pickups. This is the exact same kind of setup you got in the old Made in Mexico Strats from Fender. And they were great. In fact, they're pretty sought after nowadays. Now, there is one Squier that has a mechanical switch and 3 full-size alpha pots. That is the current Classic Vibes, although some of the older ones I've seen did not have that. So, there is a Squier that has this, but so do your players, so do your Made in Mexicos. This is very much a Mexican setup here, or an old Made in Mexico setup from the Fender Standard line. So, you can't pull these off a Squier and throw them in here. I mean, you can get the Classic Vibe for the electronics, but that would be it. They exist on other models, so this isn't Squier exclusive by any stretch. And again, this whole setup used to exist in the Made in Mexico Fenders. I think it was like 96 to 2008, something like. You guys know that sweet spot for the Made in Mexico Strats. So what you've got here is things that are pretty much obviously from the Made in Mexico line, back from the early 2000s, and then things that they had to be made for this model. The body had to be routed this way. You've got string spacing that's wider than the Squiers. You've got the wider neck and fretboard and nut. Guys, this ain't a Squier. I'm sorry. I know you want it to, some of y'all want it to be. It's not a Squier. Now, whether it's worth the money is completely subjective. I always say that when it comes to these guitars. You know, a lot of the lower end ones are easier to say good for the money. But once you get around that $500 and up point, it starts becoming more of, is it good for you? I have a habit of liking to upgrade my pickups, so it's not something I tend to care about when I'm looking at a guitar. Other people want it to stay stock, and I understand that. My higher end ones, $1,000 plus, I tend to not want to upgrade. Buying this for $600, I might still throw some pickups in it. But this thing plays great. It's got the satin urethane finish is fabulous. But it's not a Squier, guys. I'm sorry. So whether you like it or not, that's up to you. But please quit calling it a Squier. It's not an upgraded Squier. It's not dressed up Squier. It's not a Squier. It's just not a Squier, guys. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, please click like and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified. Leave me some comments and suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep playing.